Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Samantha Ritz. I am a physical therapist that treats in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am the owner and CEO of Function Physical Therapy. Today, I want to provide some education on rehab, what effective rehab is. I have taken my experience over the past couple of years and I've broken it down into 4 different stages that provide a sort of framework for how we should really be taking that patient, your client, that athlete through the rehab process without skipping anything. So today, what we're going to talk about is what I call the 4 stages of effective rehab. So what this looks like is we take basically the whole rehab process in part as a whole, and then we break it down into 4 separate stages. Now, these 4 separate stages are going to focus on a different part of what that athlete, patient, client should be doing in order to progress to the next stage. So generally, as you know, in my expertise as a PT, I'm using pain, I'm using symptoms as a marker for what passing means into the next stage. So generally, when we're trying to pass someone to the next stage, we're either using a VAS scale, which is basically just an analog scale for pain. So you're going 0 to 10, 0 being no pain at all, 10 being the absolute worst pain you've had in your life. And you're having your patient rank the certain things that they're doing on that scale in order to progress to the next stage. Now, I do find that sometimes this isn't the best measure of the patients needing to progress to the next stage, because sometimes you're going to get those patients who want to get back on the field, who are wanting to progress their rehab so quickly, and they kind of know what answers you want them to say. So sometimes I also use symptom exacerbation as well. So, are we flaring up? Is there inflammation? What does the motion look like? Are they cheating? Are they compensating? Because you know that that's a little bit more difficult for them. So we can also use that as well as the VAS to progress to the next stage. So let's go ahead and talk about the 4 different stages. So we got 4 stages here for you today. We've got stage 1, which is going to be your isometrics and your stability. Then we've got stage 2, which is going to be the concentrics and the eccentrics part of the rehab process. You've got stage 3, which is we're going to start into some unloaded hopping, unloaded running, some plyometrics as well that come along with that. And then that last stage is going to be skill specific. So if it's an athlete, what skills do they need to get back into the sport? If it's a patient, what skills do they need to do for work, for everyday life, those things. So you want to make sure that our rehab, quote unquote, stays functional, so hence my name, Function PT. We want to make sure that we have a reason for everything that we're doing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about each stage then. So stage 1, we're talking about isometrics and stability. So if you are a fellow PT, you probably know what isometrics mean. If you don't, let me explain it a little bit for you. So when we're loading the muscle, we have different ways that we can load that muscle. You have isometrics, you have concentrics, you have eccentrics, and then you also have something else called isokinetic, but we won't really talk about that today. So isometrics, what an isometric is we are contracting that muscle, but we are not moving it. That's why it's stage 1, because let's say you hurt your biceps, and that biceps is in a lot of pain, and we want to make sure that we're still moving that thing. If we're just continuing to crank on that thing, that insertion and origin point are just going to flare up. So instead, what we want to do is we want to load that without the movement, without those sticky points, those things that are going to cause inflammation. So what an isometric hold is, for instance, like if I had my hand here, if I was going to put it here and I'm just pulling up, I'm contracting that bicep, but that thing is not moving, right? So it shouldn't cause pain, quote unquote, but it should be contracting that muscle. We want to make sure that the body knows we still need to move these things. We still need to contract, because what happens is sometimes we just rest for 6 weeks, and then what are we really doing? We're not doing anything that's really healing except for just decreasing inflammation. So we want to make sure, the evidence shows us now, we got to keep moving. So isometrics are stage 1. We're pushing, we're not moving, okay? Usually an isometric protocol, what I use is 4 to 5 sets, high level of set for time. So it's more of an endurance prescription here. So we're gonna go, I start with five sets, we go 15 seconds, and then we slowly increase that time as we progress. So up to 45 seconds, especially for those big muscles, your quads, your hamstrings, things like that, where you really need to make sure that you are loading. Now, with isometrics, make sure your patients aren't cheating. Make sure you're not compensating. This is something that you need to be very specific on where you feel it. If you're not feeling it in the muscle, you're doing something wrong, okay? That's when you need to change where you're putting the pressure, how long the lever is, something like that. Now, the next thing, we got stability. Generally, single leg stability, we can go from like a double leg to a single leg and then kind of progress there. But with isometrics, you want to make sure we've got stability. That's going to challenge your balance. It's going to challenge your proprioception. We're going to look at how your form looks. Can your other body parts, are they compensating too much? Are they not compensating enough at this stage? We want to make sure, this is where we look at everything as a whole. So if we're looking at the bicep, we're making sure we're looking at that shoulder. We're making sure we're looking at the thoracic spine, the neck. We're looking at even the abs, your abdominals, what that pelvic tilt looks like. So these are things that you need to be looking for in that single leg stability stage as well. All right, so we do our isometrics. I'm going single arm stability. I'm holding a kettlebell in the air, something like that, where I'm not pushing weight, but I'm being a little bit challenged by my PT or whoever is doing the rehab at this point. And I'm able to do all these things, no pain. Pain is 3 out of 10 or less on that BAS scale, and no symptom exacerbation. All right, great. Let's move on to stage 2. Okay. Stage 2, now we've got those concentric and eccentrics, part of those 3 different types of muscle contractions I was talking to you about earlier. Now, with isometrics, nothing moves. We're contracting, but nothing moves. Eccentrics and concentrics, we are moving at this point. So, with concentric, that's what you think about when you're at the gym. You're curling heavy. That's your concentric. So, I'm in that bottom phase. I'm curling all the way up. That's your concentric. I'm utilizing that muscle. Now, your eccentric is that lower. Now, we're increasing that lever arm here. So, with an eccentric, I kind of describe it as more like that control, that slow, lower control. Are we able to be challenged in every single angle of that range of motion? Okay, if I can do this, great. But if I get to here, and that's awesome, but I can't do from here to here, we're still not where we need to be. We need to make sure that every single part of that range is smooth and easygoing, okay? So I like to challenge concentrics first, and then once that concentric feels good, we're really all about that stability. Now, stability control into the eccentrics, we're gonna pull from that stage 1 stability portion at this point, okay? Now, so what that would look like for biceps, so we're gonna continue that description, kind of my example here. Concentric, we got that bicep curl, easy peasy, we know that. You can kind of put in some hammer curls, you can do something different with that. And also with an isometric, you could do plank holds, like from the last stage, we can do plank holds, and now we can go into like maybe more of a push-up with the concentric, eccentric, more presses, stuff like that. There's so many things you can pull from at that point. Then, we're going curls, and now what we really can take is that second part of the curl, really focusing on that opening all the way, maybe loading at that point, put a heavy weight in their hand at this point, and then all they're doing is unloading. You can really do either. You can do concentrics first or eccentrics. It depends on my patients for what I'm choosing. Some people, I will start with eccentrics because I think, okay, I can load them heavier here and then really control. Whereas concentrics, they want to, sometimes I'm not as comfortable putting a super, super heavy weight in their hand for a concentric because that is an easy way to compensate. I say momentum is definitely more of a factor with a concentric curl versus eccentric. It's a little bit harder to use momentum unless you just drop that weight, right? So can do either way in that one. So your example would be like that bicep curl, okay? Now again, we're on that BAS scale. Are we 3 or less? Any symptom exacerbation? Are we having any issues there? No? Awesome, next stage. Now, and another part is when we're progressing from one stage to the other, that doesn't mean you're just basically ignoring everything that we did in the past. You're still taking pieces from those first 2 stages in with your rehab session for the 3rd stage. So if, like, let's say I have a patient and now we've progressed to, stage 3, we can start to be a little bit more explosive. I'm not just ignoring isometrics or concentrics and eccentrics at this point. We're making sure we're still being perfect at those things along with this new little addition of a plyometric and that unloaded rehab process. So now we're in stage 3. So we got unloaded hops, running, force production. So because we're using the biceps, what that's going to look like, obviously like a hop or a running progression is not really going to be beneficial here. So what we're going to do is we're unloading that force production. So for instance, let's say we've got a shot putter, or we've got someone who's gonna have to like put stuff up heavy. That's your flight attendants, you know, stuff, people that are like loading the luggage all the time, they've got to be able to push that bag up all day, every day, and help take it down. So that's your concentric, eccentric, and then the push, it would be that let go, that force production from the ground, snatching up, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with an unloaded force production. Now, what that looks like is, okay, we've got the whole weight. What we can do is we can take gravity out of the situation. So especially if we're pushing against gravity, we wanna make sure that we're not using, if it was your knees or your hips, we're not loading full body weight at the first point. I love rogue bands for this. Rogue bands, throw it up on a squat rack, something like that. You can unload it by holding the rope band. It's kind of like if you did an assisted pull-up. Now for the arms, a little bit more difficult with an unloaded shoulder press because technically unloading would just be starting with a really low weight. But what you can do is you can also take, like for instance, if I was gonna wrap a rope band around a squat rack, then what I can do is I can take that weight with the band, pull down and push up. And now the bands are gonna help me push up, but I still have to control it on the way down. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like if I had a shoulder press, I'm using that rope band wrapped around the dumbbell, I'm pulling down and I'm pushing up, that rope band's gonna kind of slingshot that weight up, and then I've gotta control that weight back down. So that's a way that you can unload that force production. But I see it all the time with knees and hips and ankles and feet like that, getting back to running. You can use the Ultra G if you are blessed enough to have an Ultra G, but you can also just use rogue bands. Rogue bands are my favorite. I use it pretty much for everything. Wrap it on a squat rack, you're good to go. Now, we wanna make sure that our force production is clean, our form is perfect, or as close to perfect as we can get at this point. And we wanna make sure that our patient, our client understands why we are doing the things we're doing. Because if I have them go through this whole program and they have no idea why we're doing the stages we're doing, then they're not really gonna know what to look for of symptom exacerbation, of pain, when I'm asking these questions. You know, the more your patient buys in to the rehab process, the more that they buy into what you're doing and that you have a plan, your patient's gonna get better so much faster, so much faster. So wanna make sure that they're also involved in the process. It's not just you spouting information and they're not retaining anything. We need to make sure it's a two-way street, because the more that they participate, the better your job is and the easier your job is. All right, final stage, we got skill specific. So now, skill specific partially is going to be a part of that unloading stage 3, right? Because we want to unload the things that we're eventually going to be doing, right? But now, stage 4, we are loaded. You know, we're weight bearing. It's just body weight at this point. Or, you know, now we're taking out that rope band. We're starting to press without any help. And then now we're starting to add some weight, right? We're being resisted with our movements at this point. So you can add in band resistance. You can add in free weight resistance. If you've got a cable machine, I freaking love cables. Cables are one of my favorite things. We make sure that we're utilizing the whole body, especially if it's biceps, right? We're using our shoulders, we're using our abs, we're making sure that we're using our extensors and our back. Everything needs to be working. We're not overutilizing one muscle or underutilizing another. So skill specific, let's say, so for instance, we're gonna keep this example, we're putting those weights up here at the flight attendant. Then what we're gonna do is we're quite literally going to do that. So we're gonna take, we're gonna take a kettlebell, we're gonna take a barbell, something like that. We can snatch up, we can squat up, overhead press, controlling back down, all the way back to the ground. This is a situation where you can also provide education. What's the right way? Are we deadlifting? Are we squatting? What does that feel like? What does that look like? This is a huge component of the skill specific stage. Now, if they have coaching, their performance training, that's where you work with them. What are we teaching them? How can I help? You don't want to, sometimes it's hard because you don't want to overstep on someone else's kind of realm. So if someone's teaching them something a certain way and you understand why they're doing that, don't change it, okay? Unless it's something scary or something different, then that's when you just need to have a conversation with that provider. Okay, so bringing it all together. So now we've used those 4 stages. Now we're back on wherever we need to be. We're back at work, we're back doing things at home, we're back on the field, we're playing. And so, but now your patient understands why we loaded things the way we did. Why, if the tissue is hurt, we started with isometrics, we started with stability, then we progressed to, okay, now we're gonna move that lever, we're gonna utilize that whole range of motion. Then 3, now we're gonna do the whole movement with a little bit of force production, but we're gonna unload it. We're gonna start low. We're gonna focus on form. Now form perfect, that looks good. Now stage 4, it's go time. All right, so that, now at this point, we've covered everything, right? I like this framework because it just gives you a good outline. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in the weeds. Oh, okay, well, I forgot we need to do this, or oh my God, I haven't worked on form, or I've been so focused on the shoulder press that I haven't done anything with the thoracic spine mobility. This is a way that we can just provide a framework. You can actually take the patient on the eval and run them through the next couple of weeks or months of what we're gonna do, how we need to progress based on that tissue healing timeline. And then now your patient's bought in. You bought in, you know exactly where point A is and point B is. So this is one of my favorite things. I utilize this all the time when I worked in outpatient therapy. I still do this with home health with my mobile company, Function PT. And especially with athletes, when you know that they need to get to a high level of skill and they're sometimes in the beginning it's a little bit boring, giving them a framework or something to work for or to makes them buy in a little bit better, especially when you're having to rest a little bit more in the beginning. So I hope this was helpful. This is just kind of something that I like to utilize in my own practice that I thought would be helpful for my audience. If you're rehabbing yourself, if you know someone who's got an injury and needs a little bit of help, or if you're a physical therapist and you're kind of looking for something that can provide a framework for how you're treating your patients, especially if you're seeing multiple patients at a time. Sometimes it's nice to be able to go back and kind of checklist what you're doing. So again, I'm Dr. Samantha Ritz. I am the owner and CEO of Function Physical Therapy, FXPT. I'm treating the Dallas Metroplex area at this time, specializing in racket sports athletes, getting them from pain and symptoms back on the court without those things. And yeah, just really enjoying it. I hope that you guys take a little bit of education from this podcast or this video, however you're watching it, and are able to utilize it in your practice and in your everyday life. Thank you so much for listening and have a good one.